Good evening, everybody. What a crowd. This is so exciting to see a room full of freedom fighters. Wow, this is really great. You know, I really applaud the last two speakers. I certainly can't come close to their exuberance and excitement. And what I'm about to share with you is very sobering. But it's real, it's truth, and it's happening right now. And I would just ask you, if you're very serious about learning what is really going on in some court action regarding a very serious event of 9/11, the crime of 9/11. Please get your pens and paper ready, because I'm going to be giving you some internet addresses, internet property for you to visit to find out evidence that is being revealed by over 300 high-ranking military officers. You know, for many years, people have just laughed and scoffed at any adverse opinion regarding 9/11 other than what the government has told us. But let me tell you, the evidence is beginning to manifest globally. But before I tell you these facts, let me just briefly reiterate this past week, our president speaking before the United Nations. How many saw that? Wasn't that awesome? Headlines, Wall Street Journal, September 25th. Trump rejects globalism in UN speech. It was phenomenal. When have you heard a president speak like this? Never. That's right. Maybe 1778, 1787. Maybe back in those days. That's right. You know, and here he has another article in the New York Times. Trump celebrates nationalism and plays down crisis with Iran. You know, the war drums are being sounded by certain groups in this country. The military-industrial complex. Mr. Eisenhower warned us about them, and so did Mr. Kennedy. It was a bipartisan warning. And here we are many, many decades later, and that effort is still full steam ahead. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. There is a deep state, a government within our government, a shadow government that is pulling the strings through the banking system and other systems, such as the media. And we have a lot to thank for Mr. Trump in revealing the sinister effort of the media to us and to the world. But the next step is going to be in the courts. And this is what's happening right now, and I just hope you have your pen and paper. What I'm about to talk about is a troubling, transformative truth. You know, sometimes there are things that we need to learn and we need to know that are not easy. They're difficult. They're big pills to swallow. And I've had to change a lot of my attitudes towards some of these groups and some of these entities that are now, we're finding, were involved in criminal activity during, prior, and after 9/11. I want to first give you some addresses for you to visit. I have one website that we put together that has over 100 videos, video evidence regarding 9/11 that is going to be used in a court of law. There are 3 different lawsuits right now and 1 court action to demand a grand jury in the federal district of the Southern District of New York. This address is 911treason.org. It's a compilation of over 100 videos of evidence put together by citizen intelligence people. People that are just like you and I, that have dedicated themselves to researching the truth. The other website, the second website, is the military. There are over 300 high-ranking military officers, CIA, FBI, and NSA, DOD people that are blowing the whistle. They can't hold it in anymore. You know, in the beginning, I'm going to tell you, it's militaryyalert.org. Militaryyalert.org. It's a very lengthy site. You can scroll and scroll and scroll, and you will find testimony after testimony after testimony of military officers. We're talking generals, colonels, majors, commanders, lieutenants that have risked their life, their careers, their reputation for trying to warn the American people about what truly happened on 9/11, prior to 9/11 and after 9/11. Right here in Sarasota County, we have an ongoing situation with the fact that Mr. Robert Mueller, when he was director of the FBI, covered up key evidence of one particular Saudi Arabian family that fled 2 weeks prior to 9/11. He concealed this evidence from Mr. Bob Graham, former governor of Florida and two-term senator. I had the great honor and pleasure to have met with him and speak with him at length regarding this effort. And he told me, along with his wife, that they were warned by the FBI, threatened in the airport to let it go, Bob, they told him. They said, it's over, it's been investigated. And they detained Mr. Senator, former Governor Bob Graham and his wife for 2 hours. The FBI did. And in an effort to try to put fear into him. But Mr. Graham is a fearless man, and he fears God. And he has dedicated the rest of his life to finding out what really happened on 9/11. And he was very instrumental in passing a law that allows the victims of the 9/11 crime to sue Saudi Arabia. If it were not for Mr. Graham and his efforts, that would not be allowed by law, but it is now, and there are several lawsuits going forward. The last website, and the article that I'm going to talk to you about in conclusion, is www.theuca.org. That stands for the United Counties of America. This is an effort, a grassroots effort of counties all across the country that are organizing in a unified effort to speak with one voice. We are sick and tired of government tearing this country apart. And until we, the people, unite and get on the same page together, we will not change anything. But what is happening, this crime of 9/11 is a unifier. Remember the months after 9/11? How we were all dedicated. Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Constitution Party, everybody was dedicated. We were going to fight this enemy. Well, just imagine what's going to happen when the reverse is revealed about the real enemy within. And that's what's about to happen. And there is an article that you will find on that website, along with 2 or 3 others, that reveal the evidence regarding the crime of 9/11. The one key article is about the University of Alaska. They completed a 4-year investigative report regarding the 3 collapses of the buildings, straight down, at free fall speed. Building 7 did fall at exactly free fall speed. Towers 1 and 2 were about 3 seconds shy of falling at free fall. But the architects and engineers, numbering over 3,200, being led by one engineer named Richard Gage out of San Francisco, they have now compiled a lawsuit and a criminal grand jury demand that was approved by the Justice Department. Now, grand juries are very secretive and they are withholding any information at this time, but they're about to file a mandamus action to force the district court in New York to reveal how far along they are in the process. And what has happened here recently, we have an article that was wrote by a Christopher Boleyn. Mr. Boleyn is one of the longest investigative reporters on the story of 9/11. He was in New York the day it happened. And the night before it happened, he had a dream that, his wife had a dream rather, that planes were going to attack New York. And the next day, as he was driving to leave the city, it happened. So it shook him up in a very special way. And he has dedicated his life to finding out who was involved in 9/11. And what we're finding out, that there is a trail of evidence that even leads to Jeffrey Epstein, believe it or not. How many of you have ever heard of an organization or a group in America called the Mega Group? Not very many. I'm not surprised. I wasn't either until several months ago. That's another name you want to write down and do your Bing research or your DuckDuckGo search. Mega Group. It is a group that was financed by Jeffrey Epstein in part, Leslie Wexner from Columbus, Ohio, who I used to have a business supplying and contracting with for his limited clothing stores. So I have a very interesting involvement with Mr. Wexner. Michael Chertoff is involved. Jeff Epstein and Michael Chertoff were part of the same company that was started by Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry to inform you that there are some very difficult things to accept regarding these claims. Don't believe me. When you begin to read the article at the UCA website regarding the Epstein 9/11 connection, you will find out that the dots lead to these people. And then just recently, a CNBC longtime commentator, senior analyst by the name of Ron Insana, on the anniversary, the 18th anniversary of 9/11, just recently here, he made a statement when he was on the radio with the Bernie and Sid show in New York, 77 WABC. He stated that Building 7 collapsed straight down and was imploded. There were several people that were stating that day that it was going to be brought down. It was going to be pulled. This is verbiage in the industry of demolition. When you pull a building, that means you're going to set off controlled demolition. 47-story building with demolition would have taken many, many weeks to wire, up to 2 months long. So we're talking long-term conspiracy here. Not a conspiracy theory. These are facts, and you will, in the near future, months and year ahead, this evidence will be revealed. Let's applaud one. I'm sorry? Before the election? I'm not sure. It could be, but this is going to be a long, drawn-out. We're talking treason. We're talking very high-level, serious treason at the levels never before seen. And one last thing here with Mr. David Horowitz. He has recently wrote a book, Dark Agenda, War on Christians. And he talks about how the media and the courts are being weaponized against we the people in the Christian religion. And this is absolutely true. And he's actually, Jewish. So he writes about this from a very unbiased perspective. So I would just like to applaud his book and recommend it to you. And I just want to conclude in recommending again 911treason.org with a long list of videos rather, militaryyalert.org. That's the long list of military individuals, and then the UCA.org. There are about 3 or 4 articles on there relevant to what's going on in America. There's one that is about a national warning regarding what time it is in America. Serious, folks. This is the last website address if you want to write it down. nationalwarning.org. This is a compilation of what has happened in America for the last 150 years. Some things you're going to read that you probably had no idea, but it's a compilation of treason that has been committed against our nation. That's called nationalwarning.org. nationalwarning.org. And in conclusion, I just want to leave you one Bible verse from the book of Revelation. How many of you know that we're in the last days? The evidence is all around us. Just go to the first chapter tonight when you get home, verse 3. Take this into real consideration. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, it's exciting to be alive today, and be encouraged. Amen.